Hey, Nick here from Raising the Standards. Tonight I'm talking to you about your first Standardbred competition on your Standardbred. What to expect, what are some common issues riders have, and how to overcome these. So I had a rider write into me in our private Facebook group, which is exclusively for our Track to Hack and the Standardbred Masterclass online course students. She said she was feeling over the moon because she'd just taken her Standardbred to his first ever competition and she was really proud of him. He handled so many elements of that day really well, but he also had a few issues with some of the wheels falling off in their training and some behaviours such as pacing presented. She was a little bit worried that this meant that his training on the whole had regressed and that she should expect issues in the future. So I jumped in and said, stop stressing. Let's think of it as a moment in time, because my experience as a once professional retrainer who was charged with working with hundreds of horses to find them new careers beyond the racetrack was this, and that is nearly every single Standardbred I had ever worked with went bug-eyed or changed their demeanour in some way, within their first few competitions. It's entirely normal. And here's why. Because we have to remember that we are working with retired harness racehorses, whether they've just been trained to race and trialled, or whether they're horses who have, raced 200 times. They've had a specific set of expectations that come when they're loaded on a float and taken somewhere. So I want you to think about this parallel. When a horse goes to the racetrack, they get off the float and there are trucks and floats everywhere in the car park. They move into the stalls and there are horses moving around everywhere. They go into the parade ring and there are horses working in front and behind them. They get on the track and there are horses running right next to them, moving around, and they are just getting amped up off that energy and really feeding off each other, because it's sort of a little bit like a herd mentality for some of them. The horse's job then is to pace often. I'd say in Australia we're about 90-95% of races, I think, are pacing. It's a really high percentage. So although there's trotters, we can talk about pacing, but just if you've got a trotter, think about it as that race trot, like, whoo, off we go, we're moving trot. Think of it the same. If I talk about pacing in this context and you've got a trotter, I want you just to think not pacing, just whopping race trot. You're not listening to me, or you've got no variance of gait speed at the moment. So if that's the scenario we're facing with racing, then think about this. You put your horse on a float and you go to a competition. You get them off, they see floats and trucks everywhere. You tie them up to the side of the float, they can still see horses everywhere. Yep, it's a little bit like being in the stalls. They're just waiting. They get tacked up. They get taken out to a warm-up arena. There's horses working around them everywhere, front of them, behind them, zipping around. All of a sudden, the intensity's building, the atmosphere is there. And then they go in and they're expected to perform. And what, Standardbreds love to please, yep. So what has pleased the humans for so long in the past? Pacing or race trotting, yep. So that's like your default setting. That's what the horse knows. That's what they've done in the past. It's worked well for them. It's gotten them a good result. It's made the humans happy. It's familiar. It's comfortable. So if we don't have a direct communication line to our horse that says, don't worry, Danny, we're not racing anymore. This might look like racing, but don't worry, it's totally different. We're going to ride now, and I don't want you to do any of those things that have worked for you in the past. Because we don't have that direct communication, your horse doesn't know that it's any different the first few times they go out. They're probably waiting for, the mobile to come out and to start running behind the car. So we have to be understanding of that, because as much as that might be a little bit frustrating to have to manage, racing also gifted our horses so many great skills in desensitization of noises and sights and sounds, which really benefit our training on the whole. So there's got to be a little bit of kickback somewhere, I suppose. The good news is this, it gets better with exposure. The more your horse does it, the more that race life is just a fading memory in their periphery, which eventually will be run with some really positive experiences, hopefully. This is something that I just find so common on the whole. I don't think I've ever had a horse, even the horses that I've trained for things like riding for the disabled and Victoria Police, I'm talking really dead quiet horses. Every horse has gotten off the float at an event and gone, am I at the racetrack? And even if it doesn't metastasize, build up into something that's, lack of control, horse rushing, pacing, not cantering, it's often still really ugly. Like your first competition is never going to look like your 10th competition. And, I say competition, but I might mean event, clinic, rally day at your pony club or riding club. I'm talking about outings where there's horses running around and a bit of atmosphere, and the horse, doesn't really know what they should be anticipating. Until they know what to expect, it's going to be a bit ugly. Yep. It's so common that we've got 2 signature courses Raising the Standards run at digitalhorseschool.com. One is Retraining the Standardbred Track to Hack, and one of them is the Standardbred Masterclass. And in both of those courses, there are huge lectures just dedicated to this topic, particularly in the Standardbred Masterclass. And this is why I want to just give you a couple of really actionable tips that you can use at your next competition, because I worked alongside a wonderful advanced level dressage rider called Danielle Pools. She's also an NCAS riding coach, but also a mindset coach. So she's really into performance coaching. And she's obviously competed at a very high level herself and coached a whole range of riders, right through to elite level from introductory level. So she had some great perspective, and we really spoke about this, and I talked about the standardbred side, and she talked about just the general competition environment. The great thing that I think the common thing that we found, regardless of breed, was that time is your best friend at an event, and so is good preparation. So the piece of advice I would give you is this: whatever your start time is, work backwards and factor in every single scenario that, takes time from the moment you get up to the moment you walk into the ring. From, getting dressed to loading the float on the car to, driving there, getting stuck in some traffic, tacking up, warming up. Work backwards and allow yourself lots and lots of time, because when you rush, you start to stress out, and that will feed through to your horse. You also want to have a little bit of extra time up your sleeve, so you don't have to rush your warm up, so that your horse can just move through their gears nicely, have had a good few canters and trots without doing that for the first time in the ring, because a lot of riders don't really know how to warm up properly, and you find you sort of go, oh, I'm just flapping around here, and now I'm in the ring, and holy crap, that is just ugly. Yeah. You want to warm up really well. You also want to have your horse have the opportunity to walk around the grounds, have a look at things, particularly if they're in that introductory stage. Go and stand near, if you're doing dressage, for example, the judges' cars, and let them hear the beeping of the horns a few times. Let them watch the horses move around them. If your horses you think your horse might get a little adrenalised, or you get there and your horse is adrenalised, go and stand next to the warm-up arena for 10 minutes and let them figure out that this is not a big deal. Yep. This is also a safety thing. I mean, it's much safer for you when, to get on your horse when they're relaxed. You don't want to be rushed there and you have to get on this horse who's just like, ugh, and then all of a sudden you're like, ugh, because you're running late and it's just a situation all over. Yep. So prepare. Leave yourself lots of time, and just try and view it as a really great exercise to test your buttons, because I like to say that in your training, you might think that your horse actually has a skill, like, oh, my horse can canter, but can it canter outside of your arena? Because, a lot of the time your horse can do things really well when they're ridden in the same spot every day. But if you can't replicate that skill in your arena, out at riding club, at a competition, at a clinic, in a great big open paddock, on their own, with a bunch of horses running around near them, all these different variables. If you can say to your horse, canter now, and they do it every single time with all of these scenarios, in all these different settings, then you've got proof that your training is consolidated. But if you've only ever got your horse to do these skills in the one spot and you take him out to an event, you've got even more impact going on you, because your horse, you really don't know how well your skills are honed in until you take them out of that setting. So my advice is also this: if you're someone who is competitive and you're looking to go out to a competition, and you might get frustrated, embarrassed, or just really disappointed if your horse doesn't perform well, go and take your horse out to different places. Go and have a lesson at an instructor's house. Go and do a clinic. Go to a riding club rally. Go somewhere with no pressure or expectation several times before you go to a competition. Let the wheels fall off and things go backwards and your horse drink in all the moment, somewhere where there's no atmosphere or expectation on your shoulders, which is going to play on your mind. You just want to go to an event and just be totally relaxed and focused solely on making sure that your horse is having a positive experience, then they're not rushed, that they're not stressed in any way, shape or form, and that they're given a really good chance to look around. So I hope this information helps, and I hope just the reassurance that you know that you're not alone, but this is not forever. Like, your horse might go to a competition, just pace flat out, you get no canter, you're like, who are you? When you get home, I nearly guarantee, I don't guarantee a lot of things, but I can nearly guarantee you're going to get home, your horse is going to be like, oh yeah, cool, I'll trot. Yeah, canter, no worries. Because it's just a moment in time. It's just all that adrenaline pumping and all this new experience that's starting to cloud what they know and just present different training issues for you. So good luck with your training. If you found this video helpful, we're going to put a whole bunch together just like this, and some of them will have footage in them. Some of them, like this one, you could just put down next to you as you're washing the dishes or whatever. You can listen to it like a podcast. I think that's really convenient sometimes when you want to learn something but you don't want to sit there glued to your screen the whole time reading or having to watch. Sometimes when it's just general topics like this, I might just put a piece of camera up, but you can just get on with your day as you're listening and hopefully passively consume that information. So as I said, yes, if you found this valuable and you want to connect with more videos about Standardbred retraining, hit the subscribe button, because 2019 we're here, and I'm putting the foot down and I'm starting to really focus on helping our wonderfully engaged community get some runs on the board and feel completely supported. If you've taken your Standardbred if you're past this stage now, or you've been to 1 or 2 competitions and you found that this happened, whack us a comment, say, hey, yeah, me too. Help people feel like this is really normal. Or if you've been through this process and you've got some words of advice for people who are going through it now, starting to stress out, whack it in the comment section. Say, this is what happened with me. This is what I did, and I found it really worked. So let's build each other up to be great, and I look forward to riding with you soon.